I'm Andy Maslen, and I've just bought this book. It's called Read Me by Roger Horberry and Gyles Lingwood, and I thought I'd share my impressions of it with you. So it's a kind of video book review, really. Should you buy it? That's the question I think most people want to know. Well, the answer to yes, you should. I think actually you should buy every book that comes out on copywriting. It's not really a competition between authors or publishers. You know, as a trade, we're not so well supplied with books that we can afford to be that picky, in my opinion anyway. I mean, I have a shelf full of books on copywriting, and even the thinnest and most mundane of books on copywriting or advertising will have at least one insight that's worth paying for. This isn't... It's not the cheapest book, it's $18.95, but it's not the most expensive either, and it's, I think, well worth the investment. So the question is not should you buy it, but why should you buy it, or what will you get out of it if you decide to put your money in. So I'm going to talk about who it's for, what the focus of the book is, what I like about it, what I'm not so keen on, and leave you to make up your own mind. So first of all, who is it aimed at? The authors make it fairly clear, I think, in their introduction that it's aimed at new entrants or people who are trying to get a foothold in advertising. And that's very much borne out, I think, by the kind of approach of the book. They use phrases like copywriters, students, advertising undergraduates, and junior writers. They talk about solving the problems of junior writers. If you're one of those people, yes, you should absolutely have a copy of Read Me. What about if you have a few more grey hairs, which some of us do? Yeah, I think you should still buy it. I've bought it, and you can at the very least compare your approach with that of the authors, Roger and Gyles, who've been in the business a long time and have a lot to say. So I think that's who it's aimed at. It's aimed at the kind of the beginner writer. What's its focus? It's clear, I think, looking through it, that this is a book essentially about advertising. It's not really about writing for the web or content or corporate communications. It's not really a book about long copy or direct response copy. There's an interesting point very early on in the introduction where the authors talk about, and incidentally they have a slightly distracting habit of saying we. They do explain that, but I personally found it slightly difficult to get to grips with initially. They come up with this new phrase, which is the brand writer, as opposed to copywriter. Brand writing, we are told, is writing words for brands, which I confess that I struggled with. Now, this may be a reflection of my abilities to understand the concept rather than the authors to explain it, but as I understand it, advertising is predominantly now, as they would have it, a non-verbal medium driven by the demands of globalization and the digital world. Brand writing is more about packaging and websites and longer form writing, which they would define as more than 100 words. I'm not hugely convinced by this idea of brand writing. I heard Roger speak at a conference that I was chairing where he sort of mentioned it. I don't think they are either, to be honest, because a couple of lines further on they do actually go on to say we're going to use the word copywriting because that's how the world talks about the job that we do. Now, my feeling is if the world uses the word copywriting to describe what we do, then let's not bother trying to invent a new one. However, that is a very minor quibble. What about what I like about it? Well, as you can probably tell, I think the production values are absolutely splendid. This book is, I think what the publishing cliche goes, lavishly illustrated. There are screen grabs, there are photos, there are scans, there are all kinds of things. Until this book came along, Ogilvy on Advertising was, I think, the most beautifully produced book on copywriting, certainly in my collection. This one, I think, has pipped it at the post. And in an era of wafer-thin margins in publishing, I think the team at Lawrence King Publishing should be commended for investing this much in the book. There's very little black and white text. I suppose that the text takes up about half of the 200 odd pages, with the rest given over to illustrations and call outs and box outs and things. So, fantastic production values. At the end of each chapter, which the authors call lessons, which may reflect the book's genesis in an advertising degree course, there are lots of workouts, which are almost like, a mini copywriting project with a brief that you can go ahead and execute, if you like. These are great. I mean, any book, I think, really, that offers advice should give you a place where you can practice what you've just been preached. At the end, I think it's chapter 9, there's a brilliant chapter actually by Roger himself, where he gives you his own first-hand account of what he was thinking and feeling as he wrote different projects. Now, this is a great opportunity to sit virtually on the shoulder of a master copywriter at work and hear as he describes the creative process for you, blow by blow. Okay, so there's plenty to like. What about what I'm not so keen on? I have to kind of really dig down and be a bit nitpicky. The authors do use the word audience a lot, and I'm not wild on this word. It suggests passivity. It suggests this kind of audience of people waiting to read copy, and I just don't think that's how the world works. I don't really think the authors do either. And they talk about writing for your audience, one member at a time. I just think the word reader is more helpful in keeping us focused. And this may, be as much a reflection of my background in direct response as theirs in advertising, which is obviously a more sort of mass market field. Chapter 5 is based on George Orwell's 1946 essay, Politics in the English Language, which I think you should read if you haven't already. It's behind a lot of my thinking. It appears in the Economist Style Guide. And one of the things that Orwell was very keen on avoiding was jargon. And it's a bear trap for any author. You put yourself in print saying, don't do this, don't do that, and you immediately go and do it. And in fact, these guys have gone a bit jargony on us when they talk about 3 concepts in the world of kind of digital writing. One of them is information architecture, which I think Orwell would probably have said what goes where. The next one is user-centric design, which I think just means putting the reader first or at the heart of your writing. And the last one is content strategy, which I think is a posh way of saying what do we want to say, possibly where do we want to say it. And lastly, there aren't a great deal of examples either of global copywriting, there's a few from the States, or of direct response copywriting. So there's not much on the word of long form copy and landing pages, or direct mail, or direct response advertising. But then again, there are plenty of books that do that, so I don't think that's a huge problem. In conclusion, should you buy it? Yes, absolutely. For £18.95, I think you're going to more than get your money's worth. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again.